All right, so today's guest, as all you lot know, on Run Come Follow Friday, is probably the biggest individual name to come out of our scene of all time. His influence on rave music and especially drum and bass is unrivaled. To be honest, any words that I say ain't even going to come close to doing him justice. So all I will say is that he took our music to the world when the world thought it didn't care about it, and he made the world care. Goldie,
bless you.
welcome to Rinse and Run Come Follow
Thanks,
Friday,
man.
mate.
Thank you.
When people hear your story from the beginning, they're going to know why you're like how you are. And I think the moral of your story is, which, you know, I'm going to start right at the beginning from a baby, is that whatever your start in life and whatever life chucks at you, if you want it enough, you can have it.
If you want it, I mean, I spent my entire life from the age of 3 in care, and I think obviously that's the thing that I've repeated on long play for a very long time. But all of a sudden we've blinked, and there's a whole new generation. And from 17 to go to New York and witness all of this amazing stuff that blew my mind. But then to kind of find my dad and my family, and then come back from Florida and experience British music, because I left when kind of Stone Roses, Strawberry Fields just came out, and then it went mental, and Soul to Soul went mental, and it was, you know, people walking around Miami Beach with funky dreads, and I'm like,
before you knew it, our culture had gone to them.
Before I knew, and it was for me quite surreal speaking to Nelly Hooper, who's one of my major influences on my phone, and they're blowing up and they're playing the David Letterman show, and coming back here and almost feeling slightly out of touch with it, and you know, all b-boyed out, and going, you know, meeting Kemi in Red or Dead in Camden, cycling down there and plotting up with, because I kind of came back and plotted up with a guy called Gus Correll, who I call him Pops, he's like my dad, and his son committed suicide, and he basically said, kind of took me into his wing, and I had Luke's room, and it was like my university of learning, because I painted there, I was graphing from there, and I was kind of getting my head around things, and he allowed me to just run my course and be myself.
Yeah, but we're going to get to all of that. So first of all, I want to take you right the way back to, you said, like, you know, it's a well documented, you went into care when you was 3, and grew up in and out of different care homes. You was in Lord Joseph and Croxtene, and different foster families and stuff like that. What music do you remember as a child? You know, going through all these different places. What was music that you grew up to? Where
the real starting point was when I had a bit of a mad breakdown, went absolutely nuts off the rails. I was about 9. I was 8 years old, and I went to a place called Croxtene, and on the record they were switching the paperwork up to kind of assess me and bring me in. And I went into one empty room, and there's a gramophone, and I lifted the lid up, and there was a Cream record. On A&M, and it was The Logical Song by Supertramp.
Okay.
And I played it constantly for the next 45 minutes to an hour while they were assessing me. And when they came for me, they had to drag me from the room, because it was the first record where I was listening to the lyrics, and it was conscious.
It captured you,
and it was captured me in the whole. And if you listen to that track, if anyone listens to that track, you kind of understand why that was kind of. It's still now, when I play it now, I just smile and think, yep, that's me.
Okay, so. Obviously we know you love art as much as you love music. In fact, you look at them as one thing. Art and music is the same thing. Yeah. Growing up in these different places, you know, different friends, different enemies.
Yeah.
How much do you think it was the art and music that got you through these times?
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, all of the stuff that was going through. Unfortunately, what my son's gone through now, I went through all of that. But you know, when you're young, you just go your way, and really no one can tell you, especially not having parenting in place and anything else. But for me, the one thing that I had was music. And when I was kind of in the hood at 17, you know, I ran away basically, found my mum and all that stuff. And this, you know, the street corner was the father, but the mother and the arts was the hustle. That was the arts. Yeah. But the father was the hustle. So you kind of learn all these different things. And I think I really. You know, we were Rasta. You know, my brother was, when I first went to my mum's yard, my brother was younger than me, but he had dreads, and we had this family called the Connickys, who were fans of the family. They all had dreads, and the 23rd of July, everyone smoked silly until they pass out. Yeah. And I kind of just had to locks up and just get in line and be that. Yeah. Right now, checking everything I didn't have animal fat in it. Yeah. And I just started building chalices.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there was a big influence on your life. Now, so before we get into any of the music stuff, I want to talk about your love of art. And I know you had an art teacher at school who fully believed in you. He fully backed everything that you did, named Mr. Hurst.
Mr. Hurst kind of shaped me up. I was getting into a lot of trouble, and he got me through my A-level exam. Yeah. And it was still life. It was drawing, still life stuff. He got me through, but ultimately my thing was sculpture. I did a Stevie Wonder bust, and I did a Aliens bust, which got me through.
Yeah.
My drawing side of it never even came out at that point.
So you was more hands-on.
And I
sort of,
remember
yeah.
carrying this Stevie Wonder bust home after passing the exam. It was white plaster, painted black, blackboard paint, and it was covered in a thing called Z-Bright Great Polish, which gives you a real good finish. I carried it home, my pride and joy. The thing was, it was so highly polished that it slipped from my cloth and fell on the floor and broke, and I was devastated.
Oh.
So it was like, this is the only piece that I had. It was real. Do you know what I mean? So I then came back and bounced back with the alien head,
Yeah.
which took me about another 6 months later. But you know, I remember these times. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean, your love of art turned into a passion for graffiti back in the early 80s. Can you remember how you actually found graffiti and what it was about graffiti art that really caught you and inspired you so much?
Well, when I gone through the kind of dread phase with all my family, and I thought I wanted my own identity. You know, hip hop came about via TV in the morning with people putting lino down in the tracksuit.
Yeah.
I wanted more, and a book came out called Subway Art, and Subway Art just blew my mind. It was the Bible, and to this day remains the Bible of what ultimate style is. And not only for its relevance for me, but that particular book, I'd met all my heroes in that book later on, and got to paint with them and became affiliated with them through, and that only happened because of a guy called Brim Fuentes, who I did a bombing documentary with. But when I saw the book, I went out and robbed every possible marker that I could possibly rob and every can of any colour I could possibly get from Halfords at the time. Sorry, Halfords, prove it. And I realised that I had something like 47 cans of Permita red, 2 cans of black and a little tiny can of white. And for me, learning to go out there and wanting to imitate this unbelievable form of art, for me was just you couldn't fathom it. I'd look at it in the way that someone that DJs, can you remember when you had one deck in a dance hall? It's that simple.
Yeah.
Bubble letters being put onto a train and made big was a massive deal. We take that for granted.
Yeah.
And I kind of never have, because I've seen it from its infancy and all the way through. And just getting to meet those guys, because for me, graffiti and the American dream was all about Manhattan. But when I went there, I was taken to the Bronx. I was taken to the South Bronx, and I was taken to a place called Bronx River, which was
the roughest of the rough.
You can't, and that's where Planet Rock, that's where Bambaataa, that's where the gangs in the 70s and everything else. And this new mantle of people had kind of put me under the wing and handed me down this. Yeah. No different than Randall handing me this record playing in the background called The Charm.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So I always look at it and I think, but that initial imprint of what the graffiti movement has done and still does to me today cannot be matched.